Brad in Illinois and
Mm-hmm.
see if we can have this conversation, because this is awesome. Brad, are you on the air with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome to the show. What can we help you with tonight?
Okay, so I guess I should preface this by saying that I understand that people come to their certain sexual preferences by maybe experiences or thoughts that they have throughout their lives. But my specific question had to do with particularly people who have experienced sexual trauma in the past and how they, that becomes, for some of them, sort of, I guess, outlines what they prefer, and whether or not that's okay to participate in, if it's just going to reinforce trauma and so on.
Sure. Yeah, it's a very complicated question, and I honestly I think we could sit down and break down every single word in your question and go turn this into an entire treatise. So I'm going to try to keep it simple and say that when we use words like preference, we're already kind of stepping into some confusing waters, and simply say that it is not at all uncommon for folks to eroticize their fears. If you go through the categories section on Pornhub or wherever else you're noticing these things, you'll see a huge list of fetishes and kinks that are effectively ways for people to explore through erotic play the things that make them feel frightened, whether we're talking about being dominated because you secretly believe that you are worthless, or secretly believe that you have a tiny penis, or that you secretly believe this or that or the other. We often work those things out through sexual play. And this is really foundational in my mind to what it means to be a mammal, to what it means to be a human being, is the way that we play and the way that we use play as a form of I guess, practice, or as a way of gaining mastery and control over these things. So when the question is it okay to be playing around with something that traumatized us, I want to say emphatically, yes, you have the right, and perhaps it could be really useful and even therapeutic for you. Now, does that mean that it is the right and healthy choice for you to be directly reenacting a traumatic experience? Maybe. I'm going to leave it at maybe, because that is way too personal of a question and way too specific to an individual. Absolutely, you can risk re-traumatizing yourself. And I want to encourage everybody out there who is investigating edge play or anything that is directly tied to a form of trauma, that you could be putting yourself in a really scary situation, or you could be just continuing to pick at a wound that is not being allowed to heal because you aren't giving it the appropriate space. Beyond that, though, I don't know that there's anything wrong here. And I think that many, many, many people find ways to kind of dress up their fears and to enjoy them, or to push back against that fear through eroticizing these things.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. Yeah, my situation was particularly, I became involved with someone and we got along rather well, and I discovered through getting to know them that in the past they'd experienced certain sexual traumas, and that I noticed that a lot of their sexual preferences aligned with those traumas. So I just didn't want to harm them by participating in that sort of behavior with them.
Sure. And that's a great question for them, to be honest with you. And I think that you have to trust what they say. You can be mindful and recognize that when it comes to our own traumas and our own pain, that we can often have some blind spots. And as you compassionately care for somebody, you might point some of those things out. But ultimately, they're going to be the expert on themselves, on what their needs are, on what their itches are, and how best to scratch them. But let me get out of the way. What do Vi and Cindy? What would y'all like to add to this?
I love that you ask this in the way that you have. I'm not gonna lie, when I heard the original intent, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be about, do gay people have preferences because of this or that? But it actually makes a lot of sense to be concerned about a partner who might be exhibiting certain, signs of, having gone through abuse or trauma. And I think the best thing you can possibly do is kind of twofold. Like Christy said, you have to trust them. They are going to know best what is good for them. Treat them like the consenting adult that they are. But on the other hand, open up that line of communication. Maybe have a safe word in play, even if it's something that you wouldn't normally have a safe word for or normally check in with, even if it seems tame to you. If you are looking at what they might be experiencing, say, hey, let's just set up a safe word ahead of time. You can use it whenever you need to, or check in during or after having sex with them, just to make sure aftercare is a big thing. If they like to experience a certain thing but then need to come down from that or feel grounded around you, that's definitely something to talk about. So yeah, communication, as always, I think is the biggest thing here. And I will let Cindy jump in as well. I just want to also maybe challenge the idea that sex specifically is more dangerous than other things when talking about past trauma. I think a lot of the concern around, well, will this sex hurt someone, comes from a place of viewing sex as inherently dangerous or in some way impactful on a deeper level than other activities. And for some, that certainly can be the case, and especially if you're going about it in a dangerous or uninformed way. But if you are two people or more than two people who, care about each other and are communicative and consenting, there's nothing more inherently dangerous or impactful around sex than there is around watching a horror film, right? Or having an intense conversation or going on a roller coaster. Like, all of these things could potentially re-trigger you or traumatize you if you had a past event that would kind of impact that. So I would just maybe encourage you to see sex as just another activity, and possibly even a very therapeutic one. Cindy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't so much just
I'm not
because
going
of
to
the sex aspect. Sorry, go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to add much to what has been said already. I think the fact that you are concerned about this and that you are concerned enough to call a show like this and ask the question is great. It shows that you care about them and you have empathy, and I think that's great. I think communication is also very important, and you should express your concerns to them, because it will also show them that you care about them and that you want to treat them as an equal and as a person you care about. So yeah, I think you really need to discuss this with them and share what you are feeling. Ask him what they feel, and there's nothing better than communication.
Yeah, we've discussed it several times, and I mean, I think that they understand that, a lot of their proclivities when it comes to this sort of behavior does stem from that. And it's just a concern for me. Like, I do care about them, and I don't want them to feel like I am abusing them by participating in the sexual acts or, so on that they wish to participate in. That was more my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, consenting adults get to consent, but I really appreciate that you're asking the question and that you're expressing the concern, and that you gave us a call and let us kind of share this with the audience.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for calling in, Brad.
Thank you guys for your advice.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thanks, Brad.